Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. We have some breaking news coming out of Miami tonight as they officially land the commitment of three-star offensive tackle from the state of Florida in Demetrius Campbell. And man, if you look at the major recruiting services, this guy's probably not going to be their headliner of this 2025 class. He's not the Ruben Bain or the Francis Mauigoa, those real big stars, if you will, those five stars that kind of catch the eye and make you think they'll be immediate impact guys. That's probably not going to end up being what Demetrius Campbell is. He is certainly going to be a bit of a development piece in this Miami program. But I think if you look at what Mario Cristobal has been doing, I don't think he's afraid to take those guys who have kind of that upside. Maybe they haven't dominated the high school ranks the way some of these higher ranked guys have, but there's a lot to like about his game, a lot of athleticism for that offensive tackle spot, especially being a former basketball player. So you see the elements, the footwork, some of that, again, that athleticism, that flexibility you need to see from the offensive tackle spot. You see that in his game. And again, probably won't be a guy who helps Miami super early in his career, although, again, you never really know. You never know how guys develop, how they grow in through high school recruiting. So, again, certainly not going to be a guy we expect to see early. But I think if you can develop him the way Mario Cristobal has been able to develop other offensive linemen, thinking of guys like Jalen Rivers, even a Markel Bell, who I think he got to work with and looked really kind of good in that spring game, maybe even farther along than what people may have thought coming out of the portal. I think this guy can be a really interesting piece for Miami at some point down the line, I should say. So, and before we get too deep into the film, just wanted to thank all the Miami fans for all their support. You guys have been rocking with us from day one, and we really do appreciate it. All the comments, all the interaction. We really love all that and love hearing from everyone. So, again, if you enjoy the content, please consider doing that. All those interactions, liking, subscribing, all that. It really does mean the world, and we love hearing from everyone. So, without further ado, just wanted to get into the film real quick and kind of look at some things that I think stand out. And to me, I think that pass pro, or his ability to work in pass pro and his kind of mechanics and feet and technique, I think really stand out. There's some elements to the run game, I think, in his ability to keep his feet moving on contact that you'd probably like to see cleaned up and obviously continue to develop some of that strength and power. But I just don't think there's many guys. You see him working on the left side here. There's just not many guys who move this way when they're in pass sets at the high school level. And you see him getting depth, getting his feet up and down, not shuffling a whole lot. And again, not being overly aggressive either. I think that's one thing you see a lot of at the high school level, guys lunging at people, not trusting their footwork, not trusting their technique, trying to jump into guys early. You see him get a lot of depth, wait for the defensive lineman to come to him, and then use those long arms to keep that defensive lineman off of him. So, again, you see some of those green shoots, if you will, of that sort of mechanics, that technique, and that footwork that you certainly need to succeed at a really high level. So I think he has the athletic traits you want to see, especially in that pass set game, that I think you need to be a really high-level tackle. And those are kind of the things that intrigue you, because at the end of the day, there just aren't that many guys who can move that way. And some tackles can get away with it with size and in strength to a certain point. But when you see the best of the best, I think at the end of the day, you need to be able to work the way like a Joe Thomas works, let's say, from the Cleveland Browns, where it's really clean technique, really clean athleticism, and doing things the right way. So I don't think he's overly reliant necessarily on that athleticism, on that size and strength, which is obviously a huge disparity between him and high school guys. So I think you really like seeing him use like really solid fundamental technique, whereas a lot of high school offensive linemen, you don't really see that from. And now we can get into another play here real quick. And again, this will come from his pass sets and kind of what you get to see in terms of his ability to react back. And when guys move, can he adjust with them? Can he mirror them? Can he shadow them? So on this play, you'll see again him working at that left tackle spot. And that ability to work back inside when a defensive lineman, I should say, doesn't necessarily use a speed rush. And again, obviously all of this is at that high school level, so you got to see the development for sure and him come through and continue to refine his game. But again, you see that movement skills. You see some of that athleticism that, again, I think at some level is table stakes, but I don't think that many guys have it. So I like the fact that you kind of looking at him, it's not all reliant on just being bigger, stronger, faster kind of thing. You see him really playing with good technique, using his hands, getting guys off of him, and doing a really good job mirroring guys on that offensive line in his pass sets. And then we'll just jump to one more play here real quick. This is him working in the run game. So you see, it's not, I don't think you necessarily had cause for alarm in the run game, but I think you need to see some of this more consistently. His ability to drive guys off the line of scrimmage. That to me is probably what they're going to need to work on in Miami, is when he makes contact with guys, can he keep his feet running? Can he develop more of that power? And again, Miami strength staff, Coach Cristoabl, everyone else, if they can get to work on him, do a really good job developing some of those, broadening out his skill set, if you will. Again, I think he'd have a really good, interesting offensive tackle. I think all the traits are there that you need to see. Again, need to develop a little bit more strength, a little bit more power, a little bit more ability to run his feet on contact. But at the end of the day, there's just not many guys who you see working in pass sets the way he does, with the cleanliness, if you will, of the technique, and kind of doing it right at the high school level at a way I don't think a lot of guys do. So again, I think he has the traits to be a really, really good player for Miami. I don't think you'll necessarily see it now. Doesn't have the same just raw power and strength and athleticism that a guy like Francis Mauigoa had. But I think, again, a guy maybe you look up in 2, 3, 4 years, you might have a really interesting guy to kind of fill in at that one of those tackle spots as a junior, senior, let's say. So again, obviously won't be the guy who catches a ton of buzz in this Miami recruiting class, but I think if you look into his film, I think there's some really interesting pieces of it. So again, we'll see obviously how he develops, but that's just kind of what I saw. Again, if you do enjoy the content, please consider subscribing, and we'll talk to you later. Obviously, Miami's got a lot more coming up this week in the recruiting world, so we'll certainly be covering that, but that's all I had for tonight. We'll see you.